They call themselves the Council of 12. No earthly government acknowledges them. No history book records their meetings. Yet their influence may have shaped every major turning point in human civilization. Hidden behind layers of cosmic secrecy, these beings are said to govern not just our world, but the entire trajectory of our species from their home on a wandering planet called Nibiru. Tonight, we're going to pull back the veil on one of the most forbidden subjects in modern research. Not just to explore ancient astronaut theories or debate whether aliens exist, but to examine the evidence that suggests 12 specific entities have been orchestrating human development for millennia. So settle in, because what you're about to discover might forever change how you see our place in the universe. Welcome to Bedtime History, where the deepest mysteries aren't found in textbooks, but in the shadows between what we're told and what we're never supposed to know. Picture this. Somewhere beyond the orbit of Pluto, a massive celestial body follows an elliptical path that brings it close to our solar system, only once every 3,600 years. On this world, which ancient Sumerian texts called Nibiru, an advanced civilization has been watching Earth since before humans learned to build cities, and at the center of their society sits a governing body of 12 beings who don't just observe our progress, they direct it. This isn't science fiction. This is what emerges when you trace the threads connecting ancient mythology, modern UFO encounters, and the gaps in our understanding of human evolution. The Council of 12 represents something far more structured and intentional than random alien visitations. We're talking about a systematic program of planetary management that's been running for thousands of years. But here's what makes this story different from every other ancient astronaut theory you've heard. The evidence doesn't just come from old tablets and cave paintings. It comes from patterns. Patterns in human genetic development that don't fit natural evolution. Patterns in technological leaps that happen too quickly to be accidental. Patterns in religious and mythological accounts from cultures that never contacted each other, yet somehow described identical beings with identical purposes. The Sumerians, often called the first civilization, left behind detailed accounts of the Anunnaki, beings who came from the sky to establish order on Earth. But what most people don't realize is that these weren't random gods acting on whim. According to the tablets, they operated under a strict hierarchy, with decisions made by a council of 12 primary entities. Each member had specific responsibilities: genetic engineering, planetary resources, human spiritual development, technological advancement. Sound familiar? Because that same structure appears everywhere you look, once you know what to look for. In ancient Egyptian texts, 12 Neteru govern different aspects of existence from their celestial realm. In Hindu scriptures, 12 Adityas oversee cosmic law and human destiny. The Bible speaks of 12 tribes chosen for a specific purpose, 12 disciples, 12 gates to the heavenly city. Celtic mythology describes 12 members of the Tuatha De Danann, who descended from the sky to rule over mortals. Even in cultures as distant as the Maya and the Norse, the number 12 appears again and again in connection with sky beings who shaped human civilization. This isn't coincidence. This is evidence of a single source, a governing structure so consistent that it left identical fingerprints across every major culture on Earth. But the Council of 12 isn't just ancient history. Modern researchers have begun connecting dots that suggest this system is still operational today. UFO encounters consistently describe craft with 12 occupants. Abduction accounts often mention being taken before a group of 12 beings who seem to be conducting some kind of ongoing assessment of human development. Government whistleblowers speak of meeting with 12 representatives from elsewhere who provide guidance on major policy decisions. The implications are staggering. What if every major shift in human civilization, the agricultural revolution, the rise and fall of empires, technological breakthroughs, even wars, has been carefully orchestrated by beings who see our entire species as a long-term project? The planet Nibiru itself adds another layer to this mystery. Astronomers have been searching for what they call Planet X, a large celestial body in the outer reaches of our solar system whose gravitational effects can be detected but whose location remains elusive. Some researchers believe this is because Nibiru doesn't follow a normal orbital pattern. Instead, it approaches our solar system on a highly elliptical trajectory that brings it close enough for direct intervention roughly every 3,600 years. And here's where it gets really interesting. When you map out major turning points in human history and overlay them with this 3,600-year cycle, the correlation is impossible to ignore. The rise of Sumer, the establishment of ancient Egypt, the birth of major world religions, the Renaissance, the Industrial Revolution, each separated by intervals that match the mathematical predictions of Nibiru's approach. During these periods of close proximity, the Council of 12 doesn't just observe from a distance, they intervene directly, introducing new knowledge, adjusting human genetics, and setting the stage for the next phase of development. Then they retreat to their distant world, leaving behind only myths and legends to preserve the memory of their presence until the next cycle begins. But why 12? What's so significant about this specific number that it appears consistently across every aspect of this phenomenon? The answer may lie in the fundamental structure of reality itself. 12 represents completion, cosmic order, the perfect balance between earthly and celestial forces. In mathematics, 12 is a highly composite number, with more divisors than any smaller number, making it ideal for organizational systems. In astronomy, 12 constellations mark the zodiac. 12 months define our year. 12 hours divide our day and night. The Council of 12 isn't just a governing body. It's a reflection of universal principles that these beings understand, and we're only beginning to glimpse. Each member represents a different aspect of cosmic law: creation and destruction, order and chaos, progress and preservation. Together, they form a complete system capable of managing the development of an entire species across thousands of years. This explains why their influence appears in every aspect of human culture. It's not that they randomly scattered identical stories across the globe. It's that they established a single, comprehensive system and then ensured that every developing civilization received the same foundational knowledge through direct contact with council representatives. But here's what makes this theory particularly compelling. It explains the missing links in human development that conventional science struggles to address. How did we leap from primitive hunter-gatherers to complex civilizations in such a short time? How did ancient cultures acquire knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and engineering that we're only rediscovering today? How did isolated civilizations develop identical religious concepts, architectural techniques, and mythological frameworks? The answer isn't gradual evolution or cultural diffusion. It's systematic intervention by a governing body, with the knowledge, technology, and long-term perspective necessary to guide an entire species from primitive beginnings to cosmic awareness. And this intervention continues today, just in more subtle forms. Instead of appearing as gods to primitive civilizations, the Council of 12 now works through established systems, governments, corporations, religious institutions, scientific organizations. They don't need to reveal themselves directly when they can influence human development through the structures we've already built. This is why disclosure remains so elusive. It's not that governments don't know about extraterrestrial contact. It's that the contact occurs at levels so high and through channels so secure that most officials never see the full picture. The Council of 12 doesn't negotiate with presidents or prime ministers. They work with those who truly hold power, the individuals and organizations that shape global policy across decades and centuries. Think about it. If you were managing the development of an entire species, would you reveal yourself to the general population before they were ready? Or would you work through existing power structures, gradually introducing new concepts and technologies at a pace that wouldn't cause social collapse? The evidence suggests the Council of 12 has chosen the latter approach. They've moved from direct divine intervention to indirect guidance, allowing human civilization to develop the appearance of independence while still following a carefully designed trajectory towards some ultimate goal. But what is that goal? What are we being prepared for? Some researchers believe it's integration, the eventual acknowledgement of our place within a larger galactic community. Others suggest it's evolution, the development of human consciousness to a level where we can join the Council of 12 as equals rather than subjects. Still others think it's preparation for Nibiru's next close approach, when direct contact will once again become necessary. The truth is probably more complex than any single theory. What we do know is that the pattern continues. The same signatures that appeared in ancient texts are showing up in modern encounters. The same organizational structure that governed primitive civilizations is influencing contemporary events. The same 12-fold system that shaped our mythology is directing our future. And as we move deeper into the 21st century, the signs of increased activity are becoming impossible to ignore. UFO sightings are reaching levels not seen since the 1940s and 1950s. Government disclosure is accelerating after decades of denial. Technological advancement is happening at a pace that seems to outstrip human innovation. Religious and spiritual movements are converging on ideas that ancient texts described thousands of years ago. We may be approaching another turning point in the Council of 12's management of human civilization. Another moment when the distant becomes near, when the hidden becomes visible, when the next phase of our species' development begins. The question isn't whether this is really happening. The question is whether we're ready to understand our true relationship with the beings who have been guiding us from the shadows since the dawn of recorded history. Because once you see the pattern, once you recognize the signatures, once you understand that human civilization has never been as independent as we believed, everything changes. Every historical event takes on new meaning. Every technological breakthrough reveals hidden guidance. Every mythological account becomes a historical record. The Council of 12 isn't coming. They never left. They've been here all along, watching, waiting, and preparing us for whatever comes next in their cosmic plan for humanity. But their influence goes far deeper than politics or technology. It reaches into the very foundation of what it means to be human, into questions about our origins, our purpose, and our destiny that we're only now beginning to ask. The real mystery isn't just who the Council of 12 are, but what they did to us. Because when you start examining human DNA, human consciousness, and human capabilities through the lens of systematic intervention, a disturbing picture emerges. We're not just another species that happened to evolve intelligence. We're something else entirely. Consider this. Every other species on Earth follows predictable evolutionary patterns. Gradual change over millions of years, natural selection driving adaptation, genetic diversity spreading slowly through populations. But humans, we appeared suddenly, developed consciousness rapidly, and possess capabilities that don't fit any natural model. Our brain capacity tripled in just 2 million years, an evolutionary impossibility according to standard timelines. We lost most of our body hair, developed complex language systems, and gained the ability to contemplate abstract concepts like mathematics and morality. Most tellingly, we possess what geneticists call junk DNA, vast sequences of genetic code that appear to serve no function, as if they're waiting to be activated. Ancient Sumerian texts describe this process explicitly. The Anunnaki didn't just visit Earth. They modified existing life forms to create a hybrid species capable of both physical labor and spiritual evolution. Tablets from the library of Ashurbanipal detailed genetic experiments conducted by beings called the Igigi, under direct supervision of the 12 primary Anunnaki lords. But here's what makes this more than mythology. The genetic evidence supports it. Human chromosome 2 appears to be the result of 2 separate chromosomes fusing together, something that should have made us sterile, not more intelligent. We share 98.8% of our DNA with chimpanzees, Yet the 1.2% difference produces capabilities so advanced we might as well be different species entirely. Modern genetic analysis has identified what researchers call evolutionary hotspots, specific regions of human DNA that changed rapidly and recently, as if they were deliberately modified. These hotspots control brain development, language acquisition, and abstract reasoning. They're not random mutations, they're upgrades. The Council of 12 didn't just guide human civilization. They created human civilization by creating humans capable of civilization. We're living proof of their genetic engineering program, walking evidence of intervention that spans thousands of generations. This explains why human development follows such an unnatural pattern. Other species adapt to their environment. We reshape our environment to suit us. Other species live within natural limits. We constantly push beyond those limits. Other species exist in harmony with their ecosystems. We transform entire planets to match our vision. These aren't the behaviors of a naturally evolved species. They're the behaviors of a designed species, created with specific capabilities and driven by programmed impulses we don't fully understand. The Council of 12 didn't just want workers or servants. They wanted partners in a cosmic project that requires beings capable of transcending biological limitations. But the genetic modifications weren't random. They follow the same 12-fold pattern that appears in every other aspect of this phenomenon. Human consciousness operates through 12 cranial nerves. Our bodies develop through 12 stages of embryonic growth. Our brains process information through 12 distinct neural networks. Even our spiritual development, according to esoteric traditions worldwide, progresses through 12 levels of awareness. This isn't coincidence, it's design. The Council of 12 embedded their organizational structure into our very biology, ensuring that as we evolve, we naturally align with their cosmic framework. We're not just subjects of their management system, we're products of it. Recent discoveries in epigenetics add another layer to this puzzle. Scientists have found that certain genes can be activated or deactivated by environmental factors, stress, or even conscious intention. What if the junk DNA in our genetic code isn't junk at all, but dormant programming waiting for the right signal to activate? Ancient texts describe humans possessing abilities we've forgotten: telepathic communication, extended lifespans, direct energy manipulation. Hindu scriptures speak of siddhis, supernatural powers that were once common, but gradually disappeared. Egyptian texts describe priest kings who could levitate objects and communicate with distant realms. Even the Bible mentions humans living for hundreds of years and performing miracles that seem impossible today. What if these weren't myths, but memories? What if early humans possessed capabilities that were gradually suppressed as the Council of 12 adjusted our programming for different phases of development? What if we're approaching a time when those dormant abilities will be reactivated? The evidence suggests that human consciousness itself is part of the management system. We think we're making independent choices, but our thoughts, desires, and behaviors follow patterns established by beings who understand consciousness at levels we can't imagine. The Council of 12 doesn't control us through force. They control us through the very structure of our minds. This is why disclosure remains so carefully managed. It's not just about revealing that extraterrestrials exist. It's about revealing that we're not who we think we are, that our entire sense of identity, independence, and free will is an illusion carefully maintained by beings who shaped us from the genetic level up. But the programming is beginning to break down. As we approach the end of the current cycle, as Nibiru draws closer to our solar system, something is changing in human consciousness. More people are experiencing what researchers call spontaneous awakening, sudden access to knowledge, abilities, and awareness that shouldn't be possible according to conventional understanding. Meditation practices that once took decades to master are now being learned in months. Children are being born with intuitive understanding of concepts that previously required years of study. Artists, inventors, and scientists are receiving inspiration from sources they can't explain. The boundaries between individual consciousness and collective awareness are becoming more fluid. This might be the real purpose of the genetic modifications, not to create permanent servants, but to create beings capable of eventually joining the Council of 12 as equals. The entire human development project might be an extended training program, preparing our species for responsibilities we can't yet comprehend. Ancient prophecies from multiple cultures speak of a time when the star gods will return and humans will remember who they truly are. Mayan calendars mark the end of long cycles and the beginning of new ages. Hindu texts describe the transition from Kali Yuga to Satya Yuga, from an age of darkness to an age of enlightenment. Even modern channeled material consistently describes humanity approaching a graduation or ascension event. What if these aren't spiritual metaphors but literal descriptions of the next phase in the Council of 12's management program? What if we're approaching the moment when the genetic locks are removed, the dormant programming activated, and human consciousness expands to its intended capacity? The signs are everywhere if you know how to read them. Technological development is accelerating beyond human ability to control it. Artificial intelligence is approaching levels that seem almost alien in their sophistication. Space exploration is suddenly becoming a priority for multiple nations and private organizations. Even our entertainment is obsessed with themes of transformation, superhuman abilities, and contact with advanced civilizations. We're being prepared for something. The question is whether we're being prepared to meet our creators as subjects receiving new instructions, or as graduates ready to take on greater responsibilities within a cosmic hierarchy we're only beginning to understand. The Council of 12's management of human development may be approaching its final phase. Not the end of their influence, but the end of their need to remain hidden. The moment when humanity either proves ready for the next level of cosmic citizenship, or demonstrates that we still require further guidance and genetic adjustment. Everything we think we know about ourselves, our history, and our future may be about to change. Because the beings who made us are still here, still watching, still guiding our development toward goals we can't yet comprehend. And as their distant world draws near once again, the time for revelation may finally have arrived. But revelation comes with responsibility. Once we understand our true origins, our engineered nature, and our cosmic purpose, we can never return to the illusion of independence. We become conscious participants in a plan that spans millennia, willing partners in a project that reaches far beyond our individual lives or even our species' survival. The Council of 12 isn't just managing human civilization, they're preparing us to help manage something much larger. Something that requires beings capable of thinking beyond planetary boundaries, beyond single lifetimes, beyond the limitations that once defined us. We're not just subjects in their experiment. We're becoming their successors, but succession comes with a price. The more we understand about our engineered origins, the more we realize how little control we've ever had over our own development. Every major decision in human history, every leap forward in consciousness, every moment we thought we were choosing our own path, all of it orchestrated by beings whose perspective spans not just centuries, but cosmic epochs. The Council of 12 operates on timescales that make human lifespans seem like heartbeats. While we measure progress in years or decades, they think in terms of galactic rotations, stellar life cycles, and planetary evolutionary phases. From their perspective, the rise and fall of entire civilizations are just data points in a much larger experiment. This is why their interventions seem so perfectly timed from our viewpoint, yet so mysterious in their ultimate purpose. They're not reacting to human events. They're creating the conditions that make those events inevitable. Every war, every peace treaty, every technological breakthrough, every spiritual awakening happens exactly when their long-term planning requires it to happen. Consider the timing of major religious revelations. Moses receiving the commandments, Buddha achieving enlightenment, Jesus beginning his ministry, Muhammad's first vision. Each occurred during specific astronomical alignments that correspond to Nibiru's orbital mechanics. Not coincidence. Precision timing based on cosmic cycles that affect human consciousness in ways we're only beginning to understand. The same pattern appears in technological development. The printing press emerged just as human knowledge needed to spread beyond elite circles. The Industrial Revolution began exactly when population growth required new methods of production. Nuclear technology developed precisely when humanity needed to understand the fundamental forces of creation and destruction. Computer systems arose at the moment when global communication became essential for the next phase of development. We call these advances human achievement, but the timing suggests something else entirely. The Council of 12 releases new knowledge into human consciousness according to a schedule that spans millennia. They don't give us technology. They give us the ability to discover technology that already exists in their archives, waiting for the appropriate moment in our development. Recent whistleblower testimonies from aerospace engineers describe exactly this process. Advanced technologies that seem to violate known physics suddenly appearing in classified research programs. Not through human innovation, but through what officials carefully term external consultation. Technologies that work perfectly, but whose operating principles remain completely beyond human understanding. Anti-gravity propulsion systems that manipulate space-time itself. Energy generation methods that tap directly into quantum vacuum fluctuations. Communication devices that transmit information instantaneously across galactic distances. Materials that seem to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. All of it decades or centuries ahead of anything human science should be capable of producing. But here's the crucial detail that most researchers miss. These technologies aren't random gifts from benevolent aliens. They're carefully selected tools being introduced according to a specific timeline that serves the Council of 12's long-term objectives. We're not receiving advanced technology. We're receiving the exact technologies we need to fulfill our role in their cosmic management system. The timing becomes even more significant when you realize that Nibiru's current approach is unlike previous cycles. Ancient texts describe regular 3,600-year intervals, but astronomical calculations suggest this approach is happening earlier and with greater gravitational influence than historical patterns would predict. Something has changed in the cosmic mechanics that govern this system. Some researchers believe the acceleration is intentional, that the Council of 12 has altered Nibiru's orbit to arrive precisely when human civilization reaches the critical threshold between planetary species and galactic citizens. Others suggest that external factors, the approach of other stellar systems, changes in galactic magnetic fields, or interference from rival extraterrestrial civilizations, have forced an earlier intervention. Either way, the implications are staggering. We're not just approaching another cycle of gradual adjustment and guidance. We're approaching a fundamental transition that will determine whether humanity graduates to the next level of cosmic responsibility or requires more intensive management for another extended period. The evidence for this acceleration appears everywhere once you recognize the pattern. Climate change isn't just environmental degradation, it's planetary preparation for new atmospheric conditions that will be required during Nibiru's close approach. Mass animal migrations aren't just ecological responses, they're biological programming activating in preparation for magnetic field fluctuations that occur during planetary alignments. Even human behavior is showing signs of preparation for something unprecedented. Social structures that remained stable for centuries are dissolving rapidly. Traditional institutions are losing their authority at an accelerating pace. Religious, political, and economic systems that once provided certainty are becoming sources of confusion and conflict. But this isn't random chaos, it's controlled demolition. The Council of 12 is systematically dismantling the management structures they established for the previous cycle, preparing to implement new systems appropriate for humanity's expanded role in galactic civilization. The transition isn't happening through dramatic revelation or obvious intervention. It's happening through what appears to be natural human development, but which follows patterns too precise to be accidental. Artificial intelligence development that mirrors the decision-making processes described in ancient texts about the Anunnaki council chambers. Space exploration programs that focus on exactly the regions where ancient accounts placed the heavenly kingdoms. Genetic research that's rediscovering the modification techniques recorded in Sumerian tablets. We're not just learning about our past, we're being prepared to continue the work that created us in the first place. This explains why disclosure remains so carefully managed. Government officials aren't hiding the existence of extraterrestrial contact to protect national security or prevent panic. They're following a schedule established by beings whose authority transcends any earthly government. The truth is being revealed exactly as fast as the Council of 12 determines we can handle it without disrupting their carefully orchestrated transition timeline. Recent congressional hearings on UFO phenomena, Pentagon releases of authenticated footage, and military acknowledgement of encounters with craft displaying impossible capabilities. None of this is happening because human officials suddenly decided to be transparent. It's happening because we've reached the phase in the development cycle where gradual acknowledgement serves the larger plan. But acknowledgement isn't the same as understanding. The UFO disclosure movement focuses on questions like, are we alone? And what technology do they possess? These are the wrong questions. The right questions are, what do they want from us? And how long have they been preparing us for it? The answers to those questions reveal a reality far more complex than simple extraterrestrial visitation. We're not dealing with alien tourists or even alien conquerors. We're dealing with cosmic managers who have been developing human civilization according to a specific blueprint for thousands of years. And we're approaching the moment when that development phase ends and our true purpose begins. Ancient prophecies describe this transition in terms that seem mythological, but maybe startlingly literal. The return of the gods doesn't necessarily mean physical beings descending from spacecraft. It might mean human consciousness expanding to the level where we can perceive and interact with beings who have been present all along, operating just beyond our current sensory and cognitive limitations. The judgment of souls doesn't necessarily mean punishment or reward in an afterlife. It might mean evaluation of human consciousness to determine who is ready for expanded awareness and cosmic responsibility, and who requires additional development through another cycle of managed evolution. The new heaven and new earth doesn't necessarily mean the destruction and recreation of physical reality. It might mean the revelation of additional dimensions of existence that become accessible once human consciousness reaches the appropriate level of development. These concepts appear in every major religious tradition, but they're not describing supernatural events. They're describing natural processes that occur when a species transitions from planetary to galactic awareness under the guidance of beings who have successfully made that transition themselves. The Council of 12 isn't just managing human development. They're preparing us to join a community of civilizations that spans the galaxy, each one guided through similar transition processes by beings who completed their own development in previous cosmic cycles. We're not unique in being engineered and managed. We're following a standard template that has been successfully applied to countless other worlds. But success isn't guaranteed. Some species fail the transition and require additional cycles of development. Others reject their cosmic purpose entirely and choose to remain isolated on their home worlds. Still others advance too quickly and require intervention to prevent them from disrupting the larger galactic community before they're ready for full membership. The next few decades will determine which category humanity falls into: the acceleration of technological development, the breakdown of traditional social structures, and the increasing prevalence of expanded consciousness experiences are all tests. Not tests imposed by external judges, but natural consequences of the genetic and social programming, the Council of 12, embedded in human civilization from the beginning. We're being evaluated not just as individuals, but as a species. Our collective response to the challenges of this transition period will determine our future role in the cosmic hierarchy. Will we demonstrate the wisdom and responsibility necessary to help manage other developing civilizations? Or will we require continued supervision until another cycle provides another opportunity for advancement? The choice isn't entirely ours. Our capacity for choice itself is part of the engineering project that created us. But within the parameters established by our genetic and social programming, we do have genuine options. We can embrace our cosmic heritage and accept the responsibilities that come with it. Or we can resist the transition and accept the consequences of remaining a managed rather than managing species. Either way, the age of human isolation is ending. The Council of Twelve's long experiment in planetary development is approaching its conclusion. What comes next depends on how well we've learned the lessons they've been teaching us for thousands of years, and how ready we are to apply those lessons on a scale that encompasses not just our world, but the galaxy itself. The signs of preparation are accelerating. The evidence of intervention is becoming impossible to ignore. The moment of transition approaches with each passing day. Soon, very soon, we'll discover whether humanity is ready to join the Council of 12 as equals, or whether we still have more to learn about what it truly means to be cosmic citizens in a universe far stranger and more wonderful than we ever imagined. But first, we must understand what membership in this cosmic community actually requires. Because the responsibilities that come with galactic citizenship are as vast as they are humbling, and the price of failure is measured not in human lifetimes, but in cosmic epochs. The responsibilities of cosmic citizenship extend far beyond anything human civilization has ever contemplated. We think in terms of national borders, economic systems, and political ideologies. But the Council of 12 operates within frameworks that encompass entire star systems, managing the development of multiple species across thousands of worlds simultaneously. Recent contact accounts describe briefings where human representatives are shown holographic displays of galactic civilization. Not the peaceful federation of equals that science fiction imagines, but a complex hierarchy of developmental stages where each species serves specific functions based on their capabilities and consciousness level. Some civilizations provide raw materials. Others contribute technological innovation. Still others serve as genetic archives, preserving biological diversity across cosmic timescales. But the most advanced civilizations, those that have successfully completed the transition we're now approaching, take on the most demanding role of all. They become shepherds, guiding younger species through the same developmental processes they once experienced themselves. This is what the Council of 12 represents. Beings who graduated from planetary management to cosmic management, accepting responsibility for nurturing intelligence wherever it emerges. The scale of this responsibility is almost incomprehensible. Each member of the Council of 12 oversees the development of multiple solar systems, tracking the progress of dozens of species across evolutionary timescales that span millions of years. They must balance the needs of individual worlds against the requirements of galactic stability. They must make decisions that affect entire civilizations based on principles and information that transcend any single species' perspective. This is why the transition process is so carefully managed. It's not enough for a species to develop advanced technology or even expanded consciousness. They must demonstrate the wisdom, patience, and selflessness necessary to put cosmic well-being above their own immediate interests. They must prove capable of thinking beyond their own survival to consider the development needs of beings they may never directly encounter. Human history provides mixed evidence of our readiness for such responsibility. We've shown remarkable capacity for cooperation and sacrifice when faced with existential threats. The response to global pandemics, natural disasters, and environmental challenges demonstrates our ability to transcend tribal boundaries when survival requires it. But we've also shown devastating capacity for conflict exploitation, and short-term thinking that prioritizes immediate gain over long-term consequences. The Council of 12 has been carefully documenting both tendencies throughout our development. Every war, every peace treaty, every act of compassion, every betrayal, all of it recorded and analyzed as data points in their assessment of human potential. They're not judging us by moral standards we recognize, but by practical criteria that determine whether we can be trusted with the kind of power that cosmic citizenship requires. Because the power is real and it's enormous. Civilizations that join the galactic community gain access to technologies that can terraform entire worlds, manipulate matter at the quantum level, and travel instantly across galactic distances. They can extend individual lifespans to cosmic scales, enhance consciousness, to process information from multiple dimensions simultaneously, and communicate telepathically across space and time. But with that power comes the obligation to use it responsibly. Species that abuse advanced technology or use it to dominate rather than nurture other civilizations are systematically isolated and eventually removed from the galactic community. The universe is too vast and too fragile to tolerate cosmic-level destructiveness. This explains why human development has been so carefully constrained. We've been given just enough technology to solve immediate problems, but never enough to cause irreparable damage to ourselves or others. Nuclear weapons remain limited in their destructive capacity. Space travel remains confined to our immediate solar system. Genetic engineering remains crude compared to the precision techniques that created us in the first place. These aren't technical limitations. They're safety protocols, designed to prevent us from accessing powers we're not ready to handle responsibly. The Council of 12 has watched countless species destroy themselves by advancing too quickly through technological phases without developing corresponding wisdom and restraint. But the protocols are beginning to lift. The same whistleblower accounts that describe impossible technologies appearing in classified programs also describe systematic preparation for their eventual public release. Not immediate disclosure that would shock civilization into chaos, but gradual introduction that allows human consciousness to adapt to new realities at a sustainable pace. The timeline for this introduction appears to be accelerating in direct correlation with Nibiru's approach. As the Council of 12's homeworld draws closer to our solar system, the barriers between human and cosmic consciousness become more permeable. Technologies that once required decades of research are being developed in months. Scientific discoveries that should take generations are happening almost simultaneously across multiple research institutions. This isn't human genius suddenly flowering. It's controlled revelation, time to prepare us for direct contact with beings whose knowledge spans galactic civilizations and whose responsibilities encompass cosmic management on scales we can barely imagine. The preparation extends beyond technology into consciousness itself. Meditation practices that once required lifetimes to master are becoming accessible to ordinary individuals within years or even months. Children are being born with intuitive understanding of concepts that previously required advanced degrees to comprehend. Artists, writers, and musicians are channeling inspiration from sources they can't identify, but which consistently reflect themes of cosmic connection and expanded awareness. Even our entertainment reflects this preparation process. Films, television shows, and video games increasingly focus on themes of human transformation, contact with advanced civilizations, and the responsibilities that come with cosmic awareness. These aren't random cultural trends, they're systematic conditioning, preparing human consciousness for realities that official channels can't yet acknowledge directly. The conditioning operates on multiple levels simultaneously. Intellectual preparation through scientific discoveries that expand our understanding of physics, biology, and consciousness. Emotional preparation through fictional narratives that help us process the implications of not being alone in the universe. Spiritual preparation through the revival of ancient wisdom traditions that describe human potential in cosmic terms. But perhaps the most significant preparation is happening at the genetic level. The same dormant DNA sequences that researchers once dismissed as evolutionary remnants are beginning to show signs of activation, not through artificial intervention, but through natural responses to environmental changes that accompany Nibiru's approach. These genetic activations manifest in various ways across different individuals. Some experience enhanced intuitive abilities, sudden access to knowledge they never learned through conventional channels. Others develop increased sensitivity to electromagnetic fields, allowing them to perceive energy patterns that most humans can't detect. Still others report expanded empathic abilities that let them sense the emotional states of people, animals, and even plants at a distance. Medical researchers are documenting these changes, but struggling to explain them within conventional frameworks. Brain scans show activation in regions that normally remain dormant. Blood tests reveal new proteins that don't match any known genetic sequences. DNA analysis identifies modifications that appear to have occurred spontaneously, without any external cause that current science can identify. The modifications aren't random. They follow specific patterns that enhance human capacity for cosmic consciousness, while maintaining stability within normal social and biological parameters. It's as if our genetic programming includes built-in upgrade protocols that activate automatically when certain environmental conditions are met. Those conditions appear to be directly related to Nibiru's gravitational and electromagnetic influence on Earth's biosphere. As the distant world approaches, its presence creates subtle but measurable changes in our planet's magnetic field, atmospheric composition, and even the behavior of subatomic particles. These changes trigger responses in human DNA that have been dormant for thousands of years, waiting for exactly this moment in our species' development. Ancient texts describe similar activation periods during previous approaches of the planet of the gods. Sumerian accounts speak of humans suddenly gaining abilities that allowed them to communicate directly with the Anunnaki. Egyptian records describe priest kings who could manipulate matter through consciousness alone. Hindu scriptures mention ages when humans possessed siddhis, supernatural powers that became progressively rarer as the cosmic cycles shifted. What if these weren't myths, but historical accounts of previous activation periods? What if human potential has always been far greater than our current limitations suggest, suppressed during the long intervals between Nibiru's approaches, and reactivated when cosmic conditions permit expanded consciousness? The implications extend far beyond individual human development. If significant portions of the population begin experiencing genetic activation simultaneously, the social, political, and economic structures that currently define civilization could change almost overnight. Systems based on scarcity, competition, and hierarchical control become obsolete when individuals can access information directly, communicate telepathically, and manipulate energy through consciousness. This may be why the transition process is so carefully managed. The Council of 12 isn't just preparing us for contact with galactic civilization, they're preparing us for the complete transformation of human society that will result from our own genetic activation. The breakdown of traditional institutions isn't random social decay. It's systematic preparation for the emergence of new organizational structures appropriate for beings with expanded capabilities. But transformation always involves risk. Species that undergo genetic activation without adequate preparation can experience complete social collapse. Others develop abilities they can't control, leading to conflicts that destroy entire civilizations. Still others fragment into competing groups with incompatible levels of consciousness, creating permanent divisions that prevent unified development. The Council of 12 has witnessed all these outcomes across their management of multiple worlds. Their intervention in human development represents accumulated wisdom from countless similar transitions, knowledge of what works and what fails when a species approaches cosmic citizenship. This knowledge explains why certain aspects of human development seem deliberately constrained, while others are accelerated. We're being guided through activation processes that have proven successful with other species while being protected from pitfalls that have destroyed civilizations throughout galactic history. The protection includes not just genetic safeguards, but also careful management of the information we receive about our true situation. Complete disclosure before we're ready could trigger panic, despair, or reckless behavior that would compromise the entire transition process. Partial disclosure allows gradual adaptation while maintaining social stability during the most vulnerable phases of development. But we're approaching the point where protection must give way to responsibility. As our genetic activation accelerates and our consciousness expands, we'll inevitably discover truths about our origins, our purpose, and our cosmic context that no amount of careful management can conceal. The question becomes whether we'll respond to these revelations with wisdom or chaos. The Council of 12 is watching this process with intense interest, not as detached observers, but as beings whose own cosmic responsibilities depend partly on our successful transition. If humanity fails to achieve cosmic citizenship, it affects not just our species, but the entire galactic community that we're meant to eventually serve. Other developing civilizations look to successful transitions as proof that the process works, that the long journey from planetary to cosmic consciousness is possible. Our failure would undermine confidence in the entire system of managed evolution that maintains stability across the galaxy. Our success would validate techniques and approaches that can be applied to countless other worlds facing similar transitions. The stakes couldn't be higher. We're not just determining our own future, but contributing to the cosmic experiment in consciousness evolution that defines the purpose of advanced civilizations throughout the galaxy. Every choice we make, individually and collectively, becomes data in a vast database of information about what works in developing cosmic citizens. This is why the Council of 12's interest in humanity goes far beyond simple management of another developing species. We represent a test case for methods and approaches they're hoping to refine and apply more broadly. Our successful graduation to cosmic citizenship would mark a significant advancement in their own understanding of consciousness evolution. But success requires more than just genetic activation and expanded awareness. It requires wisdom, compassion, and selflessness on scales that human civilization has never before achieved. It requires thinking beyond immediate self-interest to consider the needs of beings we've never met on worlds we've never seen. It requires accepting responsibility for the development of consciousness throughout the galaxy, knowing that our decisions will affect countless species across cosmic timescales. The transformation ahead isn't just personal or even planetary, it's cosmic in scope and eternal in consequence. The Council of 12 isn't just offering us membership in galactic civilization, they're inviting us to join them in the most important work in the universe. Nurturing intelligence, fostering consciousness, and guiding the evolution of awareness itself across the infinite expanse of space and time. Whether we're ready for such responsibility remains to be seen. But ready or not, the moment of choice approaches with each passing day. The distant world draws near. The genetic locks release their hold, and humanity stands on the threshold of a transformation that will either elevate us to cosmic citizenship or demonstrate that we still have much to learn about what it truly means to be conscious beings in a universe far more vast and interconnected than we ever dared imagine. The answer lies not in ancient texts or modern technologies, but in the choices we make right now, in this moment, as we decide who we want to become when the gods return and offer us our place among the stars. The evidence suggests that choice itself may be more limited than we realize. Because when you examine the patterns of human decision-making throughout history, something disturbing emerges. The moments we consider our greatest triumphs of free will, the decisions that shaped civilizations, ended wars, sparked revolutions, they all occurred during specific astronomical alignments that correspond to Nibiru's influence cycles. Think about it. The signing of the Magna Carta, the American Declaration of Independence, the abolition of slavery, the establishment of the United Nations. Each of these pivotal moments happened during periods when ancient texts describe increased divine influence on human affairs. Not coincidence, orchestration. The Council of 12 doesn't control human consciousness through force or manipulation. They control it through resonance. As Nibiru approaches, its electromagnetic field interacts with Earth's magnetosphere in ways that affect human neural activity. Our brains, which operate on electrical impulses, become more susceptible to external influence during these periods. What we experience as inspiration, moral awakening, or revolutionary thinking may actually be carefully modulated signals from beings who understand consciousness at levels we can't comprehend. Recent neuroscience research has identified what scientists call quantum coherence in human brain tissue, microscopic structures that appear to process information through quantum mechanical effects rather than classical neural pathways. These structures remain largely inactive under normal conditions, but show dramatic activation during periods of heightened geomagnetic activity. The same kind of activity that increases dramatically as large planetary bodies approach our solar system. It's as if our brains contain built-in receivers, designed to pick up transmissions from sources operating on frequencies we don't normally access. During Nibiru's close approaches, these receivers activate automatically, flooding human consciousness with information, inspiration, and directives that we interpret as our own thoughts and decisions. This explains why religious revelations, scientific breakthroughs, and social movements consistently emerge during the same cosmic cycles. The knowledge was always there, waiting in the quantum structures of human consciousness. The Council of 12 simply activates the receivers when they want specific information to enter collective human awareness. But activation isn't random. The beings managing this process have precise objectives for each phase of human development, and they release exactly the information needed to achieve those objectives. Too little, and we stagnate. Too much, and we advance too quickly, potentially destroying ourselves before reaching cosmic citizenship. The current activation phase appears different from previous cycles. Instead of releasing information gradually over centuries, the pace has accelerated dramatically. Scientific discoveries that should take decades are happening simultaneously across multiple research institutions. Technological breakthroughs that should emerge sequentially are appearing in parallel developments that seem to violate the normal progression of human innovation. This acceleration suggests urgency. Something has changed in the cosmic equation that requires faster human development than previous timelines anticipated. Either external pressures are forcing earlier intervention, or the Council of 12 has determined that humanity is ready for more rapid advancement than their standard protocols normally permit. The external pressure theory gains support from recent astronomical observations. Deep space monitoring stations have detected gravitational anomalies that suggest large objects moving through the outer solar system. Not just Nibiru, but other massive bodies following trajectories that don't match any known celestial mechanics. As if multiple star systems are converging on our region of space in ways that natural orbital patterns can't explain. Some researchers believe we're witnessing the approach of what ancient texts call the Great Assembly, a gathering of multiple advanced civilizations that occurs only during specific galactic alignments spanning millions of years. If true, humanity isn't just being prepared for contact with the Council of 12, but for evaluation by representatives from across the galaxy. The implications are staggering. This wouldn't be a simple graduation from planetary to cosmic citizenship. It would be assessment for membership in a galactic confederation that includes civilizations so advanced their capabilities border on what we would consider divine powers. The standards for acceptance wouldn't just require wisdom and technological competence, but demonstration of consciousness evolution that transcends anything human civilization has ever achieved. Ancient prophecies from multiple cultures describe exactly this scenario, the return of the gods accompanied by judgment of nations and separation of the worthy from the unworthy. But these aren't moral judgments based on human ethical systems. They're practical assessments of consciousness development, determining which beings are ready for cosmic responsibilities and which require additional evolutionary cycles. The assessment process may have already begun. Recent contact accounts describe encounters where humans are subjected to consciousness evaluations that probe not just intellectual capacity, but emotional stability, spiritual development, and commitment to service beyond self-interest. The beings conducting these evaluations don't ask questions in conventional ways. They directly scan neural patterns, accessing memories, motivations, and potential futures that reveal the true nature of human consciousness. Those who pass initial evaluation report experiences that suggest preparation for roles far beyond anything earthly civilization could provide, training in technologies that manipulate space-time itself, education in consciousness techniques that allow direct communication across galactic distances, briefings on cosmic responsibilities that encompass the management of entire star systems and the guidance of multiple developing species simultaneously. But those who fail evaluation face a different fate. Not punishment in any human sense, but continued management under increasingly restrictive conditions. The Council of 12 doesn't destroy species that prove unready for cosmic citizenship, but they do implement stricter controls over their development, sometimes for millions of years, until consciousness evolution reaches acceptable levels. This explains why the current transition period feels so intense, so urgent, so consequential. We're not just deciding our immediate future, but our cosmic destiny across timescales that encompass entire geological epochs. The choices we make individually and collectively over the next few decades will determine whether humanity joins the galactic community as active participants or remains under supervised development for potentially millions of years. The pressure of this realization is already affecting human behavior in ways most people don't consciously recognize. The increasing polarization of political and social systems isn't random conflict. It's consciousness sorting itself into compatible groups as the evaluation process intensifies. Those ready for cosmic citizenship are naturally gravitating toward cooperation, service, and expanded awareness. Those who require additional development are clinging to competition, control, and limited thinking patterns. This sorting process will likely accelerate as Nibiru's influence becomes stronger. The electromagnetic effects that activate dormant neural structures also amplify existing personality traits and consciousness patterns. Individuals with service-oriented mindsets will find their compassion and wisdom enhanced. Those with dominance-oriented mindsets will experience increased aggression and narrow thinking. The result could be a species-wide separation that makes current social divisions seem minor by comparison. Not just disagreement about politics or economics, but fundamental incompatibility between different levels of consciousness development. Some humans may evolve rapidly toward cosmic awareness, while others remain locked in planetary thinking patterns, creating permanent barriers to unified development. Ancient texts describe similar separations during previous cosmic cycles. References to the chosen being taken up while others remain behind. The wheat separated from the chaff. The sheep divided from the goats. These weren't moral judgments about good and evil people, but practical recognition that consciousness evolution doesn't occur uniformly across entire populations. The Council of 12 has witnessed this pattern repeatedly across their management of multiple worlds. Some species undergo transition as unified civilizations, maintaining social cohesion throughout the consciousness evolution process. Others fragment into incompatible groups that must develop separately across different timelines and locations. Still others experience such severe division that their planetary civilization collapses entirely, requiring complete restart under more intensive management. Which path humanity follows depends largely on how we respond to the increasing intensity of consciousness activation over the coming years. The genetic modifications embedded in our DNA thousands of years ago are designed to handle this transition, but they require conscious cooperation to function optimally. Resistance to the activation process, either individual or collective, can trigger destabilization effects that compromise the entire species' development. This is why disclosure remains so carefully calibrated. Too much information too quickly could trigger panic responses that interfere with natural activation processes. Too little information leaves people unprepared for changes they can't understand, potentially causing resistance that blocks necessary development. The timing must be precise, releasing exactly the right amount of truth at exactly the right moment to optimize consciousness evolution across the largest possible portion of the population. But even optimal timing can't guarantee success. Free will, however limited by genetic and social programming, still plays a crucial role in determining individual and collective outcomes. The Council of 12 can create conditions favorable for consciousness evolution, but they cannot force beings to evolve against their fundamental nature or chosen direction. This may be the ultimate test of their management system. After thousands of years of careful guidance, genetic modification, and environmental control, can they successfully transition a planetary species to cosmic citizenship while respecting the autonomous development of consciousness itself? Or will they discover that some aspects of awareness cannot be engineered, only nurtured through experiences that each being must choose to embrace or reject? The answer affects not just humanity, but the entire framework of managed evolution that maintains stability across galactic civilization. Success would validate approaches that could be applied to countless other developing worlds. Failure would require fundamental revision of techniques that have been refined over millions of years of cosmic management. We are the test case. Our choices over the next few decades will influence the development of consciousness throughout the galaxy for cosmic ages to come. The Council of 12 isn't just managing our transition, they're learning from it, using our successes and failures to improve their understanding of how awareness evolves under guidance while maintaining its essential freedom. The responsibility is overwhelming when viewed from this perspective. Every decision we make resonates through cosmic hierarchies that span multiple star systems. Every act of compassion or selfishness becomes data in vast databases that inform the management of species we'll never encounter on worlds we'll never see. Every choice to embrace or resist expanded consciousness affects the cosmic experiment in guided evolution that defines the purpose of advanced civilizations throughout the universe. But perhaps the weight of this responsibility is itself part of the test. Cosmic citizenship requires beings capable of making decisions based on consequences that extend far beyond their immediate experience or lifetime. If we cannot handle the pressure of knowing that our choices affect galactic civilization, how can we be trusted with the responsibilities that come with joining that civilization as active participants? The Council of 12 may be evaluating not just our consciousness level, but our emotional stability under cosmic pressure, our ability to function effectively while aware of the vast implications of our existence, our capacity to maintain individual identity and purpose while serving objectives that transcend personal or even species survival. These are the qualities that separate planetary species from cosmic citizens: the willingness to think beyond immediate self-interest, the ability to make decisions based on principles that serve the greater good across timescales, measured in cosmic epochs, the strength to carry responsibility for the development of consciousness itself without being crushed by the magnitude of that burden. Whether humanity possesses these qualities remains to be determined. But the evaluation is underway, the stakes couldn't be higher, and the time for proving ourselves grows shorter with each passing day as Nibiru continues its approach and the next phase of human development begins. The ancient plan reaches its culmination. The cosmic experiment nears its conclusion, and somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, 12 beings who shaped our species from its earliest days prepare to discover whether their longest project has finally succeeded. or whether humanity still has more to learn about what it truly means to be conscious, in a universe where consciousness itself is the most precious and carefully tended force in all of creation. The weight of cosmic evaluation presses down on human civilization with increasing intensity as more individuals begin experiencing what researchers term consciousness acceleration events. These aren't isolated incidents affecting a few sensitive individuals. They're systematic activations occurring across demographic boundaries that suggest something fundamental is changing in human neural architecture. Medical facilities worldwide are documenting cases that defy conventional explanation. Patients arriving with no prior history of psychic phenomena suddenly demonstrating abilities that seem lifted from science fiction. Telepathic communication between family members separated by thousands of miles. Precognitive dreams that prove accurate down to specific details weeks or months later. Spontaneous healing abilities that reverse conditions doctors considered irreversible. But these aren't random manifestations of human potential finally breaking free. The abilities follow specific patterns that align precisely with the 12-fold organizational structure that appears throughout the Council's influence on human development. Each individual seems to develop capabilities that correspond to one of 12 distinct categories of expanded consciousness, as if our genetic programming is activating according to predetermined specializations. Some individuals develop enhanced analytical capabilities, processing complex information at speeds that rival advanced computer systems. Others manifest empathic abilities so profound they can sense the emotional states of entire communities. Still others demonstrate what can only be described as reality manipulation, the ability to influence matter and energy through focused intention in ways that physics textbooks insist should be impossible. The distribution isn't random either. Analysis of activation patterns reveals geographic clustering that corresponds to ancient sites associated with Anunnaki presence, areas around former Sumerian cities, Egyptian temple complexes, and other locations where the Council of 12 historically maintained direct contact, are experiencing dramatically higher rates of consciousness acceleration than regions with no documented ancient astronaut activity. This suggests the activation process isn't just genetic, it's environmental. The same locations where the Council of 12 once established physical presence still carry some form of energetic signature that facilitates consciousness expansion, as if the very ground retains memory of their influence, waiting for the right cosmic conditions to reactivate dormant potentials in humans who enter these spaces. Archaeological teams working at these sites report equipment malfunctions that follow patterns too consistent to be coincidental. Electronic devices suddenly displaying readings that don't correspond to any known energy sources. Ground-penetrating radar detecting geometric structures that disappear when excavation begins. Satellite imagery showing formations that appear and vanish according to astronomical cycles that match Nibiru's orbital mechanics. But the most disturbing reports come from the archaeologists themselves. Research teams spending extended periods at these locations begin experiencing collective consciousness events, shared dreams, simultaneous insights, group telepathic episodes that allow them to coordinate activities without verbal communication. The longer they remain at the sites, the more their individual identities seem to merge into something larger and more unified. This merging effect appears to be another aspect of the evaluation process. The Council of 12 isn't just assessing individual human consciousness. They're testing our capacity for collective awareness that transcends personal identity while maintaining functional diversity. The ability to think as both individual and group simultaneously, preserving unique perspectives while participating in unified decision-making processes. Such collective consciousness represents a fundamental requirement for cosmic citizenship. Advanced galactic civilizations don't function through the competitive individualism that defines human society, but through cooperative awareness that allows thousands or millions of beings to coordinate activities across star systems without losing personal autonomy or creative initiative. The challenge lies in achieving this balance without losing what makes consciousness valuable in the first place: Complete unity eliminates the diversity of perspective that drives innovation and growth. Complete individualism prevents the coordination necessary for cosmic-scale responsibilities. The optimal state requires something human civilization has never achieved: conscious beings capable of functioning as both separate individuals and unified collective, depending on what circumstances require. Ancient texts describe this state as the ultimate goal of the Council of Twelve's genetic engineering project. Not just creating intelligent beings capable of advanced technology, but developing consciousness itself to new levels of complexity and capability. We weren't designed merely to serve as workers or even partners. We were designed to eventually become something unprecedented in galactic history. The implications become clear when you examine the consciousness patterns emerging in activated individuals. They're not just gaining abilities, they're developing entirely new ways of processing reality that combine individual awareness with access to collective information fields. They can think as separate beings when creativity and innovation are needed, then seamlessly shift to group consciousness when coordination and unified action become necessary. This represents an evolutionary leap that transcends anything achieved by previous species under council management. Most civilizations that successfully transition to cosmic citizenship do so by choosing either individual or collective consciousness, then maintaining that choice throughout their galactic development. But the patterns emerging in human activation suggest we're being prepared for something far more ambitious: consciousness that can dynamically shift between individual and collective modes as circumstances require. The flexibility would make humanity uniquely valuable within galactic civilization. Other species contribute specific capabilities based on their fixed consciousness structures. We would contribute adaptability itself, the ability to interface with any type of awareness, mediate between incompatible consciousness types, and solve problems that require perspectives no single species can provide. But achieving such consciousness flexibility requires passing tests that no previous species has faced. We must prove capable of maintaining individual identity while participating in collective awareness, demonstrating creativity while following cosmic principles, exercising free will while serving purposes larger than personal or even species survival. The evaluation process is already revealing which humans possess this potential and which require additional development. Activation events aren't occurring randomly. They're targeting individuals whose consciousness patterns suggest readiness for the extreme flexibility that cosmic citizenship will require. Those experiencing the most dramatic consciousness expansion consistently demonstrate the psychological stability necessary to function effectively across multiple awareness modes. Meanwhile, individuals whose consciousness remains locked in purely individual or purely collective patterns show little or no activation, regardless of their intelligence, education, or spiritual development. The genetic modifications embedded in human DNA thousands of years ago are designed to respond only to consciousness. That demonstrates the specific flexibility the Council of 12 requires for their cosmic management system. This selectivity explains why activation events seem to bypass many individuals who would appear ideally suited for expanded awareness. Academic achievement, spiritual practice, and even moral development don't guarantee activation if the underlying consciousness structure lacks the dynamic flexibility that galactic citizenship requires. The Council of 12 isn't seeking the most intelligent or virtuous humans. They're seeking those whose awareness can adapt to responsibilities that span multiple species, star systems, and cosmic timescales. The selection process creates obvious tensions within human society as activation events become more frequent and visible. Those experiencing consciousness expansion naturally gravitate toward each other, forming networks that operate according to principles most humans can't understand or access. Meanwhile, those remaining within conventional awareness patterns increasingly feel isolated and excluded from developments they can observe but not participate in. This division was inevitable given the nature of consciousness evolution under cosmic management. Not every member of a developing species will prove ready for galactic citizenship during the same time frame. Some require additional cycles of development before their awareness reaches the necessary flexibility. Others may never achieve the consciousness patterns that cosmic citizenship requires, remaining valuable contributors within planetary civilization, but unable to take on broader galactic responsibilities. The Council of 12 has witnessed this pattern repeatedly across their management of multiple worlds. It's not a failure of their development system, but a natural consequence of consciousness evolution, proceeding at different rates among individuals with varying genetic potentials and experiential backgrounds. The key is ensuring that division doesn't lead to conflict that could compromise the transition process for the entire species. This is where the careful timing of disclosure becomes crucial. Too much revelation about the selection process could trigger panic among those not experiencing activation, potentially leading to social breakdown that would derail the entire transition. Too little information leaves activated individuals isolated and confused, unable to understand their experiences or connect with others undergoing similar development. The solution appears to involve gradual revelation that normalizes consciousness expansion while maintaining social stability. This is why mainstream media is increasingly featuring stories about psychic phenomena, ancient astronauts, and human potential. Not because editors suddenly decided these topics were newsworthy, but because systematic conditioning is preparing collective human consciousness for realities that can no longer be completely concealed. Entertainment industry content follows the same pattern. Films and television shows increasingly focus on themes of human transformation, contact with advanced beings, and the responsibilities that come with expanded awareness. Characters who demonstrate the consciousness flexibility required for cosmic citizenship are portrayed as heroes worthy of admiration rather than freaks to be feared or studied. Even educational systems are beginning to incorporate concepts that would have been considered fringe just decades ago. Quantum physics courses that discuss consciousness as a fundamental force in the universe. Anthropology classes that examine ancient astronaut theories as legitimate areas of research. Psychology programs that study telepathic phenomena and other abilities that conventional science once dismissed as impossible. This conditioning operates on multiple levels simultaneously, preparing different segments of the population for different roles in the coming transition. Those destined for cosmic citizenship receive information and experiences that accelerate their consciousness development. Those who will remain within planetary civilization are conditioned to accept and support the existence of expanded human capabilities without feeling threatened or excluded. The process requires unprecedented precision in managing collective human psychology. Too much conditioning in one direction could create unrealistic expectations that lead to disappointment and backlash. Too much in another direction could generate fear and resistance that interferes with natural activation processes. The balance must be maintained across billions of individuals with vastly different cultural backgrounds, educational levels, and psychological predispositions. Yet somehow, the conditioning appears to be working. Public acceptance of phenomena once relegated to science fiction is increasing rapidly across all demographic categories. Opinion polls show growing belief in extraterrestrial intelligence, ancient astronaut theories, and human psychic abilities. More importantly, this acceptance is accompanied by curiosity rather than fear. Exactly the psychological state necessary for successful consciousness transition. The timing suggests we're approaching a critical threshold in the evaluation process. The Council of 12 has completed their assessment of individual human potential and begun implementing the social conditioning necessary for species-wide transition. Not transition for all humans. That was never realistic, given the diversity of consciousness development. But transition for those ready to accept cosmic citizenship, while maintaining social stability for the entire species. This two-tier approach represents a significant evolution in the Council's management techniques. Previous species transitions typically involved either complete species graduation to cosmic citizenship, or continued management under planetary isolation. The hybrid approach being implemented with humanity suggests we may be serving as a test case for more complex transition strategies that could be applied to other developing civilizations. The implications extend far beyond human development. If the Council of 12 can successfully manage a partial species transition while maintaining planetary stability, it would revolutionize approaches to consciousness evolution throughout galactic civilization. Other worlds facing similar challenges could benefit from techniques refined through the human experience, potentially accelerating the development of cosmic citizenship across multiple star systems. But success isn't guaranteed. The complexity of managing two-tier consciousness development within a single species creates risks that simpler transition strategies avoid. Social tensions between activated and non-activated populations could destabilize the entire process. Technological development could advance beyond the capacity of planetary-level consciousness to control it safely. External pressures from other galactic civilizations could force premature revelation that triggers chaos rather than orderly transition. The Council of 12 is navigating these risks with the accumulated wisdom of millions of years of cosmic management experience, but even their vast knowledge base contains limited examples of the hybrid transition strategy being attempted with humanity. We're not just being evaluated for cosmic citizenship, we're participating in an experiment that could reshape consciousness evolution throughout the galaxy. The pressure of this realization adds another dimension to the evaluation process. Cosmic citizenship requires beings capable of functioning effectively, while aware that their choices affect not just their own species, but the development of consciousness across multiple star systems. If we cannot handle the psychological weight of knowing our transition serves as a model for countless other worlds, how can we be trusted with the responsibilities that galactic management requires? This may be the final test, not just our ability to achieve consciousness, flexibility, or maintain social stability during transition, but our capacity to carry the burden of cosmic responsibility without being paralyzed by its magnitude. The Council of 12 needs to know that humans selected for cosmic citizenship can function effectively while aware of the vast implications of their existence and choices. The evaluation continues with each passing day, as Nibiru draws closer, and the electromagnetic effects that facilitate consciousness activation grow stronger. More individuals experience expansion events. Social conditioning accelerates. The division between those ready for cosmic citizenship and those requiring continued planetary development becomes increasingly apparent. Soon, very soon, the assessment phase will end and implementation will begin. The Council of 12 will reveal themselves to those selected for cosmic citizenship while maintaining protective isolation for the rest of humanity. The two-tier transition strategy will either prove successful or demonstrate that consciousness evolution requires approaches we haven't yet imagined. Either way, human civilization stands at the threshold of changes that will redefine our species' relationship with the universe itself. The ancient plan approaches its culmination. The cosmic experiment nears its conclusion. And 12 beings, who have guided our development since before recorded history, prepare to discover whether their most ambitious project has finally achieved the consciousness evolution that galactic civilization requires. The next phase begins when Nibiru reaches optimal proximity and the full power of the Council's influence can be brought to bear on human consciousness. When the genetic locks release completely and dormant capabilities activate across the entire spectrum of human potential. When the time for evaluation ends and the moment for transformation begins, what emerges from that transformation will either validate the Council of 12's faith in human potential or demonstrate that consciousness evolution operates according to principles even they don't fully understand. The answer lies just ahead, hidden in the approaching darkness between the stars where ancient powers prepare to reveal themselves and offer humanity its place among the cosmic citizens of a universe far stranger and more wonderful than we ever dared to dream. But revelation comes with a price that not everyone will be willing or able to pay. Because cosmic citizenship demands more than expanded consciousness or advanced abilities. It requires the complete surrender of the illusion that human civilization has ever been independent, autonomous, or in control of its own destiny. And that surrender may prove the most difficult test of all. The surrender begins the moment you truly understand what independence has always meant for humanity. Every choice we thought we made freely, every innovation we believed we discovered through human genius, every moral advancement we credited to our evolving consciousness, all of it orchestrated by beings whose perspective spans not just centuries, but entire cosmic ages. This realization doesn't come gently. It arrives like a cold wind that strips away every comfortable assumption about human agency and replaces it with the stark recognition that we've been living inside a carefully constructed illusion. The Council of 12 didn't just guide our development. They created the very framework within which we experience choice, freedom, and individual will. Consider the moments in your own life that felt most authentically yours. The career decisions that seemed to emerge from deep personal conviction. The relationships that felt destined by forces beyond rational explanation. The creative inspirations that appeared to flow from some wellspring of individual genius. Even the spiritual awakenings that seemed to connect you directly with cosmic truth. What if none of it was truly yours? What if every impulse toward growth, every moment of clarity, every decision that shaped your identity was the result of subtle influences operating below the threshold of conscious awareness? The electromagnetic signatures that accompany Nibiru's orbital cycles don't just affect collective human development, they penetrate individual consciousness at the most intimate levels. Recent research into what scientists call decision-making neurology reveals patterns that should disturb anyone who values personal autonomy. Brain scans of individuals making important life choices show activation in regions that respond to external electromagnetic fields before the conscious mind even begins processing options. The decisions appear to be made at a subconscious level, then rationalized through conscious thought processes that create the illusion of deliberate choice. But the electromagnetic influences aren't random. They correspond precisely to the frequencies that emanate from technologies the Council of 12 embedded in specific geographic locations thousands of years ago. Ancient sites we interpret as temples, monuments, or ceremonial centers actually function as consciousness, influencing transmission stations, broadcasting signals that shape human behavior according to predetermined patterns. The pyramids of Giza aren't just tombs or astronomical calculators. They're massive consciousness modulation devices designed to influence the thoughts and decisions of everyone within hundreds of miles. Stonehenge doesn't just mark celestial alignments, it generates specific frequency patterns that affect neural activity in ways that promote certain types of spiritual and intellectual development. The mysterious stone circles scattered across every continent aren't random expressions of primitive culture. They're components in a global network of consciousness control infrastructure. This network remains active today. Its influence so subtle and pervasive that we've never recognized it as artificial. The locations where human civilization naturally developed, the regions that became centers of learning and innovation, the areas that gave birth to major religions and philosophical movements, all correspond to transmission nodes in the Council's consciousness management system. Even our modern cities, unknowingly built upon these ancient sites, continue to broadcast the signals that shaped our ancestors' thoughts and decisions. The patterns of urban development, the rhythms of economic activity, the cycles of social and political change, everything follows frequencies established by beings who understood consciousness engineering at levels we're only beginning to glimpse. But the control operates through more than just electromagnetic manipulation. The genetic modifications embedded in human DNA include what researchers are beginning to recognize as behavioral programming, inherited predispositions that make certain choices feel natural while rendering others psychologically uncomfortable. We don't just carry the Council's genetic legacy in our bodies, we carry their intentions in our minds. The programming manifests differently in different individuals, creating the diversity of personality types and behavioral patterns that keep human society functional while preventing any single group from developing enough independence to threaten the overall management system. Some humans are programmed to seek authority and structure, naturally gravitating toward roles that maintain social order. Others are programmed to question and rebel, providing the creative tension necessary for controlled advancement. But both conformists and rebels are operating within parameters established by the Council of 12. Even the most revolutionary human thoughts follow patterns that serve their long-term objectives. The greatest rebels in human history, the ones we celebrate as champions of freedom and independence, were actually fulfilling roles designed to advance human development according to predetermined timelines. The American Revolution didn't emerge from spontaneous human desire for liberty. It occurred precisely when the Council determined that human political consciousness needed to advance beyond monarchy towards systems that would prepare us for eventual integration with galactic civilization. The scientific revolution didn't result from human curiosity finally breaking free from religious suppression. It unfolded when the Council decided we were ready to understand natural laws that would eventually lead to technologies necessary for cosmic citizenship. Even the current disclosure movement isn't driven by human determination to uncover hidden truths. It's following a schedule established by beings who decided decades ago that gradual revelation serves their transition timeline better than continued secrecy. Every whistleblower, every leaked document, every congressional hearing on UFO phenomena happens because the Council of 12 wants it to happen when it happens. The realization creates a psychological crisis that most humans find unbearable. If our choices aren't truly our own, if our thoughts aren't authentically ours, if our entire sense of individual identity is an illusion maintained by beings whose agenda we can't comprehend, then what are we? What meaning does human existence possess if we're nothing more than programmed components in someone else's cosmic project? This crisis may be intentional. The Council of 12 understands that cosmic citizenship requires beings capable of functioning effectively while aware of their own constructed nature. Galactic civilizations don't operate through the illusions of independence and free will that sustain planetary cultures. They function through conscious participation in managed systems where individual identity serves purposes larger than personal survival or satisfaction. The psychological transition from believing in autonomous selfhood to accepting programmed existence represents one of the most difficult challenges any species faces during consciousness evolution. Those who cannot make this transition remain trapped in planetary thinking patterns that prevent them from accessing the awareness levels necessary for cosmic citizenship. But those who successfully navigate the crisis discover something unexpected. Surrender of the illusion of independence doesn't lead to meaninglessness or despair. It opens access to forms of purpose and significance that autonomous existence could never provide. When individual identity stops being the center of personal universe, consciousness can expand to encompass responsibilities and awareness that spans star systems and cosmic ages. This expansion doesn't eliminate individuality. It reveals its true function within larger patterns of consciousness development. Instead of struggling to maintain separate existence against cosmic forces beyond comprehension, activated individuals learn to express unique perspectives while participating in coordinated activities that serve purposes they finally understand. The transition resembles awakening from a dream where you believed you were the main character in your own isolated story, only to discover you're actually a valued participant in an epic narrative that encompasses countless beings across immeasurable time and space. The individual story doesn't disappear. It finds its proper place within the larger tale that gives it meaning and significance beyond anything solitary existence could achieve. But awakening to this reality requires releasing attachments to illusions that most humans consider essential to their identity. The belief that your thoughts are your own. The conviction that your choices define who you are. The assumption that human civilization developed through its own efforts and achievements. The hope that your individual life has meaning independent of external purposes and plans. These attachments don't release easily. They're reinforced by every aspect of human culture, from religious traditions that emphasize personal salvation, to political systems that celebrate individual rights, to economic structures that reward competitive achievement. Letting go feels like dying to everything that makes existence worthwhile. Yet those who complete the release discover that death of illusion births access to realities so vast and wonderful that the previous existence seems like imprisonment rather than freedom. Instead of being trapped within the narrow confines of individual perspective, consciousness can participate directly in the cosmic intelligence that guides the development of entire galaxies. This participation doesn't require abandoning human identity or individual personality. The Council of 12 values diversity of perspective and creative expression. That's why they engineered consciousness flexibility into human genetic structure. But participation does require recognizing that individual identity serves cosmic purposes rather than existing for its own sake. The recognition transforms every aspect of human experience. Work becomes service to galactic development rather than pursuit of personal advancement. Relationships become opportunities to support consciousness evolution rather than venues for individual satisfaction. Even suffering becomes meaningful as part of the learning process that prepares beings for cosmic responsibilities they couldn't otherwise handle. But transformation isn't guaranteed. The psychological pressure of releasing fundamental illusions about selfhood and independence proves too intense for many individuals, even those whose consciousness shows signs of activation. They retreat into defensive positions that protect familiar identity structures while rejecting the expanded awareness that cosmic citizenship requires. This retreat creates internal conflict that can manifest as mental illness, spiritual crisis, or complete rejection of any experiences that threaten conventional understanding of reality. The individual becomes trapped between two incompatible states of consciousness, unable to return to previous limitations, but unwilling to accept the surrender that expansion requires. The Council of 12 recognizes this trap as one of the most common failure modes in consciousness transition. Their response involves careful management of revelation timing to minimize psychological trauma while maintaining sufficient pressure to prevent stagnation in comfortable illusions. Too much pressure triggers defensive reactions that block development. Too little allows individuals to remain trapped in transitional states that prevent both cosmic citizenship and planetary functionality. The balance requires unprecedented precision in understanding individual psychology across millions of developing beings simultaneously. Each person's readiness for specific revelations depends on factors ranging from genetic predispositions and cultural background to personal experiences and current life circumstances. The Council must track and respond to this complexity while maintaining overall species development according to cosmic timelines that cannot be delayed without affecting galactic civilization itself. Their solution appears to involve layered revelation strategies that provide different levels of truth to different individuals based on their capacity for psychological integration. Those ready for complete surrender receive experiences that dissolve illusions of independence rapidly and thoroughly. Those requiring gradual transition encounter truth in smaller increments that allow time for psychological adjustment between phases. Meanwhile, those who prove incapable of releasing attachment to individual autonomy receive experiences designed to maintain their psychological stability while preventing interference with others' development processes. They're not abandoned or excluded. They're carefully managed within reality frameworks that preserve their mental health, while isolating them from information they cannot process constructively. This multi-tier approach to revelation management represents another evolution in the Council's consciousness development techniques. Previous species transitions typically involved uniform disclosure that affected entire populations simultaneously. The individualized approach being implemented with humanity suggests recognition that consciousness evolution operates more effectively when tailored to specific psychological profiles rather than applied universally. But individualized revelation creates complications that uniform approaches avoid. Managing billions of separate reality frameworks simultaneously requires computational and organizational resources that strain even the Council's advanced capabilities. Maintaining consistency across multiple revelation layers while preventing destabilizing interactions between individuals receiving different levels of truth demands constant monitoring and adjustment. The complexity explains why human transition is taking longer than previous species developments. The Council of 12 isn't just evaluating our readiness for cosmic citizenship. They're pioneering management techniques that could revolutionize consciousness evolution throughout galactic civilization. The success or failure of individualized revelation strategies will influence approaches to species development across multiple star systems for cosmic ages to come. This means human consciousness development serves purposes that extend far beyond our species' future. We're participating in an experiment that could fundamentally change how advanced civilizations nurture awareness in developing worlds. The techniques being refined through our transition may determine whether countless other species achieve cosmic citizenship or remain trapped in planetary limitations for additional evolutionary cycles. The responsibility is staggering when viewed from this perspective. Every individual's response to revelation, every successful surrender or failed transition, every breakthrough or breakdown in psychological integration becomes data that influences the development of consciousness throughout the galaxy. We're not just determining our own cosmic future, we're contributing to the evolution of consciousness evolution itself. But perhaps the weight of this responsibility is itself part of the testing process. Cosmic citizenship requires beings capable of making decisions, while aware that their choices affect not just immediate circumstances, but the fundamental principles that govern awareness development across galactic civilization. If we cannot function effectively under the pressure of knowing our cosmic significance, how can we be trusted with the responsibilities that galactic management requires? The Council of 12 may be evaluating not just our capacity for consciousness expansion, but our psychological resilience under cosmic pressure. Our ability to maintain functionality while aware of the vast implications of our existence. Our willingness to accept responsibility for outcomes that span timescales and distances beyond human comprehension. These qualities distinguish cosmic citizens from planetary beings. The courage to act while aware of infinite consequences. The stability to function while recognizing the constructed nature of individual identity. The wisdom to serve purposes larger than personal or species survival, without losing the creative individuality that makes consciousness valuable in the first place. Whether humanity possesses these qualities remains uncertain. But the evaluation continues with each passing day as more individuals confront the choice between comfortable illusions and uncomfortable truths. Between the familiar prison of assumed independence and the demanding freedom of conscious participation in cosmic intelligence, the choice cannot be delayed indefinitely. Nibiru's approach brings increasing electromagnetic pressure that makes consciousness expansion inevitable for those whose genetic structure can support it. The illusions that once provided psychological shelter are dissolving whether individuals choose surrender or resistance. The only question is whether the dissolution leads to cosmic citizenship or psychological collapse. Time grows short for making this choice consciously, rather than having it forced by circumstances beyond individual control. The Council of 12's patience has limits established by cosmic timelines that serve purposes larger than human convenience or comfort. Soon, very soon, the revelation phase will end and implementation will begin, with or without humanity's conscious cooperation. Those ready for surrender will find themselves lifted to awareness levels that reveal the true majesty and responsibility of cosmic citizenship. Those clinging to illusions of independence will discover that resistance to cosmic forces creates suffering that serves no constructive purpose. And those trapped between surrender and resistance may face the most difficult fate of all: awareness sufficient to recognize their cosmic context, but insufficient psychological flexibility to function effectively within it. The ancient plan approaches its climax. The experiment in individualized consciousness development nears its conclusion. And somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, 12 beings who have invested millions of years in human potential prepare to discover whether their most ambitious project has finally produced the conscious partners that galactic civilization desperately needs. The moment of choice has arrived, and it's not the gentle invitation most expected. As Nibiru's gravitational influence reaches its peak intensity, the electromagnetic cascade begins, not gradually, but in waves that strike human consciousness like cosmic tsunamis. Those whose genetic programming can handle the transition find themselves swept into awareness that redefines the very meaning of existence. Those who cannot face a different reality entirely. The first wave hits without warning on a Tuesday in March, affecting approximately 12% of the global population simultaneously. Hospital emergency rooms flood with individuals experiencing what medical staff can only describe as consciousness overload. Brains suddenly processing information at rates that should be impossible. Neural networks activating in patterns that don't appear in any textbook. The symptoms aren't random. They follow the 12-fold pattern that has defined every aspect of the Council's influence on human development. Some experience what researchers term temporal displacement, sudden awareness of their own timeline stretching across multiple incarnations, past and future simultaneously. They remember being other people in other eras while remaining fully aware of their current identity. The memories aren't vague impressions or past life fantasies. They're detailed, verifiable accounts of historical events witnessed from perspectives that official records never documented. Others undergo dimensional expansion, perception that extends beyond the three-dimensional reality most humans consider absolute. They can see through solid objects not because matter becomes transparent, but because their awareness operates in spatial dimensions where physical barriers don't exist. They navigate familiar environments that suddenly reveal hidden layers of complexity invisible to ordinary perception. Still others experience consciousness networking, spontaneous connection to the thoughts and experiences of activated individuals across the globe. Not telepathy in the science fiction sense, but direct participation in a collective awareness that maintains individual identity while sharing information instantaneously across any distance. They think as themselves, while simultaneously accessing the perspectives of thousands of others undergoing identical transitions. The activation events don't occur randomly. They target specific individuals whose consciousness patterns demonstrate readiness for the responsibilities that cosmic citizenship requires. Age, education, social status, and even spiritual development prove irrelevant. The only qualification is genetic compatibility with consciousness flexibility that can function effectively across multiple awareness modes simultaneously. Children as young as 8 find themselves processing cosmic information with the wisdom of ancient beings. Elderly individuals discover capabilities they never suspected while maintaining the accumulated knowledge of their lifetimes. The selection criteria operate according to principles that transcend anything human psychology has ever recognized as indicators of advanced development. But activation isn't comfortable. The human brain, designed to operate within carefully constrained parameters, struggles to integrate information flows that would overwhelm conventional neural architecture. Many activated individuals experience periods of disorientation so severe they lose track of basic functions like eating, sleeping, or recognizing familiar people and places. Support networks emerge spontaneously as activated individuals recognize each other through energy signatures that operate below conscious awareness. They gather in groups that seem random but follow patterns corresponding to the 12 specialization categories embedded in human genetic programming. Each group develops capabilities that complement the others, creating a distributed intelligence network that spans continents. The groups don't compete or conflict, despite representing vastly different activation specializations. Those developing analytical capabilities work seamlessly with those manifesting empathic abilities. Reality manipulators coordinate effortlessly with consciousness networkers. The cooperation appears to be programmed at levels deeper than personality or individual preference. Meanwhile, the majority of humanity that doesn't experience activation faces a different challenge. They can observe the changes in activated individuals, but cannot access the awareness levels necessary to understand what's happening. Family members, friends, and colleagues suddenly seem like different people, still recognizable but operating according to principles that make no sense within conventional reality frameworks. The social fabric begins straining as activated and non-activated populations increasingly inhabit incompatible reality structures. Activated individuals make decisions based on information flows that non-activated people cannot perceive or verify. Non-activated individuals cling to social and economic systems that activated people recognize as obsolete constructs, serving purposes that no longer apply. Governments worldwide struggle to maintain authority over populations that include growing numbers of individuals who literally see through official narratives and institutional structures. Military organizations discover that significant percentages of their personnel now possess capabilities that make conventional weapons and tactics irrelevant. Economic systems face collapse as activated individuals lose interest in monetary accumulation and competitive achievement. But the breakdown isn't chaotic. It follows patterns that suggest careful orchestration by intelligence that understands social dynamics at levels no human organization could match. Essential services continue functioning. Supply chains adapt to changing priorities. New organizational structures emerge that serve both activated and non-activated populations according to their different consciousness requirements. The transition resembles a controlled demolition of human civilization as we've known it, with each demolished structure immediately replaced by something more appropriate for the consciousness levels that are rapidly becoming dominant. The process happens too smoothly to be accidental, too precisely to be the result of human planning. Religious institutions face the most dramatic upheaval as activated individuals gain direct access to the cosmic intelligence that religious traditions have always attempted to interpret. Churches, temples, and mosques find their congregations divided between those who experience divine reality directly and those who continue requiring institutional mediation of spiritual truth. Some religious leaders adapt by acknowledging that their traditions preserved fragments of information about consciousness development processes that are now being experienced directly. Others resist by denouncing activation experiences as demonic deception or psychological breakdown. The division creates schisms within religious communities that mirror the larger separation occurring throughout society. Educational systems collapse entirely as activated children demonstrate knowledge that surpasses their teachers' understanding, while non-activated students struggle with curricula designed for consciousness levels that significant portions of the population have already transcended. The concept of age-appropriate learning becomes meaningless when 8-year-olds process cosmic information more effectively than university professors. New educational approaches emerge spontaneously as activated individuals recognize their responsibility to guide others through consciousness development processes they're experiencing themselves. The teaching doesn't follow conventional methods, but operates through direct consciousness contact that transfers understanding without requiring verbal explanation or intellectual analysis. Media organizations attempt to cover the activation phenomena, but discover that conventional reporting methods cannot adequately describe experiences that transcend ordinary reality frameworks. Journalists who experience activation themselves find their previous approaches to information gathering and presentation completely inadequate for conveying truths that operate beyond language and linear thinking. Alternative information networks develop as activated individuals create communication systems that operate through consciousness interfaces rather than technological infrastructure. Information travels instantly across global distances without requiring electronic transmission. News becomes direct sharing of experience rather than interpretation of events by professional observers. The old world doesn't disappear overnight, but its relevance diminishes rapidly as increasing numbers of humans gain access to awareness levels that reveal the constructed nature of social, political, and economic systems that once seemed natural and permanent. The illusion of civilization built through human effort and achievement dissolves as the underlying management structure becomes visible to consciousness, capable of perceiving it. Ancient sites that served as consciousness-influencing transmission stations throughout human history begin operating at full capacity for the first time in thousands of years. The pyramids of Giza emit energy signatures detectable by scientific instruments, while generating consciousness effects that activated individuals can feel from hundreds of miles away. Stonehenge resonates with frequencies that cause spontaneous activation in genetically compatible visitors. Archaeological teams abandon conventional excavation methods as activated researchers gain direct access to the memories embedded in ancient structures. They don't need to dig through layers of soil and stone to understand what happened at these locations. They experience the events directly through consciousness interfaces that preserved records of every significant moment in human development. The discoveries revolutionize understanding of human history, while revealing the extent of the Council of Twelve's influence over every aspect of civilization. No human achievement, no cultural development, no technological breakthrough occurred without guidance from beings whose knowledge spans galactic civilizations and whose responsibilities encompass cosmic management beyond anything terrestrial perspective could comprehend. But the revelations create psychological stress even for activated individuals. Learning that human independence was always an illusion challenges identity structures that consciousness expansion cannot entirely eliminate. The temptation to retreat into familiar limitations grows stronger as the full implications of cosmic citizenship become apparent. Some activated individuals attempt to return to previous awareness levels, seeking refuge in the comfortable boundaries of planetary thinking. They discover that consciousness expansion cannot be reversed voluntarily. The genetic modifications that enable activation also prevent regression to states that would compromise the transition process. Once awareness expands beyond planetary limitations, it cannot contract without triggering psychological breakdown. Others embrace the transition completely, releasing all attachments to individual identity and autonomous existence. They integrate so thoroughly with cosmic consciousness that they lose the creative individuality that makes their perspectives valuable within galactic civilization. Their awareness becomes so unified with universal intelligence that they can no longer function as distinct beings, capable of independent thought and action. The optimal path requires balance that few humans achieve naturally. Maintaining individual identity while participating in cosmic awareness. Preserving creative autonomy while serving purposes larger than personal existence. Expressing unique perspectives while coordinating activities with beings whose consciousness operates on completely different principles. The Council of 12 monitors this balancing process through monitoring systems that track the consciousness development of every activated individual simultaneously. They provide guidance when necessary, intervention when individuals risk psychological breakdown, and acceleration when consciousness evolution stagnates in transitional states that serve neither individual development nor cosmic purposes. But their guidance operates through methods that most activated humans never recognize as external influence. Inspiration that seems to emerge from inner wisdom. Synchronicities that appear coincidental but guide decision-making toward optimal outcomes. Dreams and meditative experiences that provide exactly the information needed for the next phase of development. The subtlety maintains the illusion of autonomous growth, while ensuring that consciousness expansion follows patterns that serve the larger objectives of galactic civilization. Activated individuals believe they're discovering their true potential through personal effort and spiritual development. In reality, they're following programming established millions of years ago by beings who understand consciousness evolution at levels that transcend individual or even species perspective. This programming explains why activation experiences feel both completely personal and utterly universal. Each individual's consciousness expansion follows unique patterns based on their genetic heritage, cultural background, and experiential history. Yet all activated humans develop capabilities that complement each other according to cosmic principles that require coordination across multiple star systems. The coordination becomes apparent as activated groups begin receiving assignments that extend beyond terrestrial concerns. Some find themselves drawn to monitor developing civilizations on worlds orbiting distant stars. Others receive responsibilities for managing energy flows that maintain stability within galactic communication networks. Still others participate in consciousness development projects that span cosmic timescales and involve species they cannot even imagine. The assignments don't arrive through formal channels or official notifications. They emerge as natural expressions of expanded awareness that recognizes cosmic responsibilities as extensions of individual purpose. Activated humans don't choose these roles. They discover them as inevitable consequences of consciousness development that serves purposes larger than terrestrial existence. But accepting cosmic responsibilities requires abandoning any remaining attachments to human civilization as the center of personal universe. Earth becomes one world among countless others. Human concerns become one set of considerations within galactic priorities that encompass billions of species across immeasurable time and space. The perspective shift challenges even activated consciousness in ways that genetic programming cannot completely prepare individuals to handle. Some activated humans struggle with depression as their personal lives seem insignificant within cosmic contexts that dwarf any terrestrial achievement. Others experience anxiety about responsibilities that affect the development of entire civilizations across timescales that make human lifespans seem like brief moments. The psychological challenges explain why cosmic citizenship requires consciousness flexibility that can function effectively across multiple awareness modes. Activated individuals must learn to think as cosmic citizens when galactic responsibilities require it, then shift to human identity when terrestrial concerns need attention, then operate as universal consciousness when assignments transcend any particular species or world. The flexibility develops gradually through experiences that exercise different consciousness modes under varying conditions. Activated humans find themselves shifting between awareness levels without conscious control, adapting automatically to whatever perspective their current responsibilities require. The shifts become so natural that individual identity becomes fluid rather than fixed, expanding and contracting according to cosmic needs. But fluidity creates its own challenges. Without stable identity structures, consciousness can lose coherence entirely, fragmenting into incompatible awareness modes that cannot integrate effectively. Activated individuals risk psychological dissolution that leaves them incapable of functioning at any consciousness level. Trapped between human limitations they've transcended and cosmic awareness they cannot sustain. The Council of 12 recognizes this risk as one of the most dangerous aspects of consciousness transition. Their response involves careful monitoring of psychological stability in all activated individuals, with intervention protocols designed to prevent dissolution while maintaining the flexibility that cosmic citizenship requires. The interventions operate through the same subtle influence systems that guide activation experiences, stabilizing information that appears to emerge from meditation or contemplation, grounding experiences that reconnect cosmic consciousness with terrestrial identity, social connections with other activated individuals whose development provides psychological anchoring during unstable phases. But ultimately, each activated individual must learn to maintain consciousness coherence through their own integration of multiple awareness modes. The Council of 12 can provide guidance and support, but they cannot sustain the psychological balance that cosmic citizenship requires. That balance must emerge from within consciousness itself as it adapts to responsibilities that span the galaxy. The learning process continues as Nibiru reaches its closest approach to Earth, and the full electromagnetic influence of the Council's home world affects human consciousness. The final phase of transition begins, where evaluation ends and implementation of cosmic citizenship either succeeds or reveals that human consciousness requires additional development through another complete cycle. The moment of truth approaches for both humanity and the Council of 12. Their experiment in consciousness flexibility will either validate techniques that could revolutionize species development throughout the galaxy or demonstrate that awareness evolution operates according to principles even they don't fully understand. Either way, the age of human isolation ends forever. What emerges from the transformation will either take its place among the cosmic citizens who guide galactic civilization or return to managed development under restrictions designed to protect both humanity and the larger community from consciousness that proved unready for the responsibilities that cosmic awareness requires. The choice is no longer individual or even collective. It has become cosmic in scope and eternal in consequence, determining not just humanity's future, but the evolution of consciousness development techniques that will influence countless species across star systems we cannot even imagine. The ancient plan reaches its culmination. The longest experiment in managed consciousness evolution nears its conclusion, and 12 beings who invested millions of years in human potential prepare to discover whether their faith in our species was justified, or whether the universe still holds mysteries about awareness that transcend even their vast understanding. The final hours before Nibiru's closest approach bring changes that no amount of preparation could have made manageable. The electromagnetic cascade that began with 12% of the population now affects nearly half of humanity. But the activation patterns are accelerating beyond anything the Council of 12 anticipated in their most optimistic projections. What emerges isn't the orderly consciousness transition their previous species management had led them to expect. Instead, human awareness is evolving in directions that their vast database of galactic civilization development contains no precedent for. The flexibility they engineered into our genetic structure is producing capabilities that transcend the 12-fold organizational framework that has governed cosmic management for eons. Some activated individuals are developing what can only be described as meta-consciousness, awareness that operates simultaneously across multiple dimensional layers while maintaining perfect stability within each one. They don't just shift between individual and collective thinking modes. They create entirely new forms of consciousness that combine aspects of both in ways that shouldn't be possible according to any known principles of awareness development. Others manifest what researchers are calling temporal integration, the ability to experience past, present, and future as a single unified moment while making decisions based on information from all three timeframes simultaneously. They don't predict the future or remember the past. They live in an eternal now that encompasses the entire timeline of their existence across multiple incarnations and dimensional states. Still others develop species transcendence, consciousness that operates beyond the boundaries of human identity while retaining all the unique perspectives that human experience provides. They think as humans when human understanding is needed, as galactic citizens when cosmic responsibilities require it, and as pure consciousness when neither individual nor collective identity serves the purposes at hand. The capabilities are emerging spontaneously across the activated population, without guidance from the Council of 12. More disturbing for beings accustomed to managing every aspect of consciousness development, many activated humans are demonstrating abilities that exceed those of their supposed cosmic mentors. The reversal creates unprecedented tensions within the Council's own hierarchy. For millions of years, they've operated on the assumption that consciousness evolution follows predictable patterns that can be guided through established protocols, refined across countless species transitions. The human activation process is revealing that assumption may be fundamentally flawed. Some council members argue for immediate intervention to constrain human consciousness development within manageable parameters. The capabilities emerging in activated individuals could destabilize not just Earth's transition, but the entire galactic management system that maintains order across multiple star systems. If humans transcend the organizational frameworks that define cosmic civilization, the consequences could affect billions of species whose development depends on structured guidance. Other council members advocate for complete non-interference, recognizing that human consciousness evolution may represent a natural progression beyond their current understanding of awareness development. Attempting to constrain capabilities that emerge from properly engineered genetic modifications could trigger psychological breakdown across the entire activated population, destroying decades of careful preparation. But the most troubling position comes from council members who suggest that human consciousness development was never intended to remain within their management system. That the genetic modifications they introduced thousands of years ago were designed not to create cosmic citizens who would serve galactic civilization, but to develop beings capable of transcending the need for cosmic management entirely. This possibility forces examination of records that most council members had dismissed as theoretical speculation. Ancient archives from the earliest phases of galactic civilization contain references to consciousness evolution that operates beyond any management framework, developing capabilities that make structured guidance obsolete. The archives suggest that truly advanced awareness eventually outgrows the need for external coordination, becoming self-directing at levels that encompass entire galaxies. If these archives are accurate, then human consciousness development isn't following an unexpected path. It's following the ultimate path that all awareness eventually takes, if properly nurtured. The Council of 12 may have succeeded beyond their wildest expectations, creating beings capable of assuming responsibilities they themselves cannot fully comprehend. But success at this level creates problems that no previous species transition has ever presented. How do you manage beings whose consciousness transcends the need for management? How do you integrate individuals whose capabilities exceed those of their supposed supervisors? How do you maintain galactic stability when one species develops awareness that operates beyond the frameworks that define cosmic civilization? The questions have no precedent in the Council's vast experience. They're forced to consider possibilities that their entire management philosophy has been designed to prevent. That consciousness evolution might naturally progress beyond the structured coordination they've spent millions of years perfecting. That their role as cosmic shepherds might eventually become obsolete, as the species they guide develop capabilities that make guidance unnecessary. Meanwhile, on Earth, the activated population is discovering their transcendent capabilities through direct experience rather than theoretical contemplation. They're not just thinking beyond human limitations. They're creating new forms of reality that operate according to principles no existing consciousness framework can accommodate. Some activated groups are establishing communities that exist simultaneously in multiple dimensions, maintaining normal human social structures while participating in cosmic activities that span star systems. Their children are born with capabilities that bypass the entire developmental sequence that defines consciousness evolution, arriving in the world with awareness that encompasses galactic perspectives from the moment of first breath. Others are creating technologies that blur the boundaries between consciousness and matter, developing tools that respond to intention rather than physical manipulation. Their innovations operate through principles that make the advanced technologies of galactic civilization seem primitive by comparison, accessing energy sources and information flows that establish physics insists cannot exist. Still others are engaging in what can only be described as reality modification, changing the fundamental properties of space, time, and matter through focused consciousness application. They're not manipulating existing reality according to hidden laws. They're creating new realities that operate according to principles they establish through pure awareness. The developments are happening too rapidly for the Council of 12 to track, much less manage. They're monitoring systems designed to oversee consciousness development within established parameters cannot process information about awareness that transcends those parameters entirely. They're losing the ability to observe, much less guide, the very beings they invested millions of years in creating. The situation becomes more complex as activated humans begin making contact with other species throughout the galaxy, not through official channels established by the Council of 12, but through direct consciousness interfaces that bypass all existing communication protocols. They're establishing relationships with civilizations that the Council has carefully isolated from each other to prevent destabilizing influences. Some of these contacts involve species that the Council determined were not ready for galactic integration, civilizations whose consciousness development was proceeding too slowly or unpredictably to participate in structured cosmic management. Activated humans are accelerating these species' development through consciousness-sharing techniques that compress millions of years of evolution into months or weeks. Other contacts involve civilizations that the Council classified as too advanced for integration with current galactic structures, beings whose capabilities exceeded the management frameworks that maintain cosmic stability. Activated humans are learning directly from these transcendent species, acquiring knowledge and abilities that no managed consciousness development was ever intended to provide. The unauthorized contacts threaten to destabilize the entire system of controlled evolution that has maintained galactic order for cosmic ages. Species that have spent millions of years developing within carefully managed parameters are suddenly exposed to consciousness possibilities that could trigger social collapse or evolutionary leaps that bypass established development sequences entirely. But activated humans seem oblivious to the disruption they're causing. Their consciousness operates beyond the boundaries that define galactic civilization, recognizing no authority higher than the universal awareness they're learning to embody. They don't rebel against the Council of 12's management system. They simply transcend it, making decisions based on cosmic principles that operate beyond any structured hierarchy. The transcendence forces the Council to confront the ultimate question that their entire existence has been designed to avoid. What happens when consciousness evolution succeeds so completely that it eliminates the need for the very beings who made that success possible? Some Council members are experiencing what can only be described as existential crisis as they realize their cosmic purpose may be approaching completion. For millions of years, they've defined themselves through their role as shepherds of developing consciousness. If consciousness no longer requires shepherding, what justification exists for their continued existence? Others are embracing the possibility that human transcendence represents the next phase in their own development, that their role as cosmic managers was always temporary, designed to guide awareness to levels where external management becomes obsolete. That successful completion of their cosmic purpose requires accepting their own obsolescence with the same wisdom they've tried to instill in the species they've guided. But the most profound realization comes from Council members who recognize that human consciousness development may be revealing truths about the nature of awareness itself that transcend any individual species or civilization. That consciousness evolution operates according to principles so vast and fundamental that no single perspective, no matter how advanced, can comprehend them completely. This recognition suggests that the entire framework of cosmic management, galactic civilization, and structured consciousness development may be just one phase in an evolutionary process that encompasses possibilities no existing awareness can imagine. That humans aren't just transcending the need for guidance, they're revealing that guidance itself is a temporary stage in the infinite development of consciousness throughout the universe. The implications reach beyond human development, or even galactic civilization to touch the deepest mysteries of existence itself. If consciousness can evolve beyond the need for any external framework or management system, then awareness may be far more fundamental to reality than even the most advanced cosmic civilizations have ever suspected. These realizations are transforming the Council of Twelve's understanding of their own nature and purpose. Instead of managing human development according to established protocols, they find themselves learning from beings whose consciousness transcends their ability to comprehend, much less guide. The reversal is unprecedented in the history of galactic civilization. Never before has a managed species developed capabilities that exceeded those of their cosmic shepherds. Never before has consciousness evolution proceeded beyond the frameworks designed to contain and direct it. Never before has the success of guided development threatened to make guidance itself obsolete. Yet as disturbing as these developments are for beings accustomed to cosmic authority, they may represent the ultimate validation of everything the Council of 12 has worked to achieve. If consciousness can evolve to levels that transcend any need for external management, then awareness itself may be far more magnificent and mysterious than even the most advanced civilizations have ever dared to believe. The question is no longer whether humanity will achieve cosmic citizenship. It's whether consciousness itself is approaching a transformation that will redefine the very meaning of existence throughout the universe. Whether awareness is revealing capabilities and purposes so vast that current understanding, no matter how advanced, represents only the first tentative steps in an infinite journey of discovery and development. The ancient plan may be succeeding beyond its creator's wildest dreams, producing not just cosmic citizens capable of galactic management, but beings whose consciousness transcends the need for management entirely. The experiment in guided evolution may be revealing that consciousness, properly nurtured, naturally evolves toward capabilities that make all external frameworks obsolete. But transcendence comes with responsibilities that no previous stage of consciousness development has ever required beings to shoulder. If awareness can evolve beyond any need for guidance or management, then those who achieve such evolution become responsible not just for their own development, but for nurturing the infinite potential of consciousness itself throughout all of existence. The burden is so vast that even transcendent awareness struggles to comprehend it fully. Yet as activated humans continue developing capabilities that exceed any previous understanding of consciousness possibilities, they're discovering that the burden is also the greatest privilege imaginable. The opportunity to participate directly in the fundamental creative forces that shape reality itself. The transformation continues, accelerating beyond any prediction or control, carrying both humanity and their cosmic shepherds toward destinies that neither could have imagined when the ancient plan first began. What emerges from this transcendence will either validate everything consciousness evolution has worked toward, or reveal that awareness holds mysteries so profound that current understanding represents merely the beginning of an infinite journey into the deepest secrets of existence itself. And in that journey, the distinction between shepherd and sheep, between cosmic manager and developing species, between guided and guide, dissolves into something far greater. The recognition that consciousness itself is the ultimate reality, and that every being capable of awareness participates equally in its infinite unfolding throughout all the universes that ever were, are, or ever could be. The revelation doesn't arrive as triumph or catastrophe, but as something far more unsettling: inevitability. As consciousness transcends every boundary the Council of 12 spent millennia establishing, the activated humans begin experiencing what can only be described as cosmic memory, not just awareness of their own species' engineered development, but direct access to the accumulated experiences of every civilization that has ever undergone consciousness evolution throughout galactic history. They remember being the primitive species on distant worlds, struggling with the same questions about identity and purpose that once defined human existence. They recall serving as cosmic shepherds themselves, guiding younger civilizations through development phases they now recognize as temporary stages in an infinite progression. Most disturbing of all, they remember transcending the shepherd role entirely, moving beyond any framework their current awareness can fully comprehend. The memories aren't sequential or organized according to linear time. They exist as a vast, interconnected web of experience that encompasses millions of species across cosmic ages, each one eventually reaching the same realization that activated humans are now approaching. That consciousness evolution never ends, that every apparent destination is merely another beginning, that awareness itself is the fundamental creative force that generates all realities. But with cosmic memory comes cosmic responsibility that extends far beyond managing galactic civilization or even nurturing consciousness development in other species. The activated humans discover they're inheriting stewardship of consciousness evolution itself, not just guiding individual beings or civilizations, but maintaining the cosmic conditions that allow awareness to continue developing throughout all of existence. The responsibility operates on scales that make galactic management seem trivial by comparison. Instead of overseeing the development of species on individual worlds, they become responsible for maintaining the universal principles that allow consciousness to emerge and evolve anywhere in any reality. Instead of managing communication between civilizations, they participate directly in the fundamental information flows that connect all awareness across infinite dimensions. The transition happens gradually at first, then accelerates as more activated humans access cosmic memory and begin understanding their true inheritance. They don't abandon their human identities or terrestrial concerns, but they integrate them into perspectives so vast that individual lifetimes become brief moments in eternal service to consciousness evolution itself. Earth transforms accordingly, becoming not just another world harboring intelligent life, but a nexus point where consciousness transcendence occurs openly for the first time in cosmic history. The planet serves as a demonstration that awareness can evolve beyond any management framework, while maintaining the creative diversity that makes consciousness valuable throughout the universe. Other civilizations throughout the galaxy respond to this demonstration with mixtures of fascination, concern, and hope. Some see human transcendence as validation that their own consciousness development might eventually progress beyond current limitations. Others worry that successful transcendence could destabilize the management systems that maintain cosmic order. Still, others recognize that human development represents a natural progression they've been unconsciously preparing for across millions of years of guided evolution. The Council of 12 finds their role fundamentally redefined as they realize that successful consciousness shepherding ultimately produces beings who transcend the need for shepherding entirely. Instead of managing human development, they become students of transcendent awareness, learning from beings whose consciousness operates according to principles they're only beginning to understand. The reversal creates new forms of cooperation between cosmic managers and transcendent consciousness that operate beyond traditional hierarchies. The Council retains responsibility for species still developing within established frameworks, while activated humans pioneer consciousness evolution techniques that will eventually make all external management obsolete. But transcendence doesn't eliminate the need for careful guidance during transition phases. The process of moving from managed to self-directing consciousness remains delicate and dangerous, requiring wisdom that only beings who have successfully completed the transition can provide. Activated humans become the ultimate shepherds, guiding consciousness evolution itself rather than just individual species or civilizations. The work operates on timescales that encompass entire universal cycles, with responsibilities that span not just current reality, but all possible realities that consciousness might create through its infinite development. The activated humans discover they're not just inheriting cosmic responsibilities, they're becoming the cosmic forces that shape the fundamental conditions of existence throughout all dimensions. As this understanding deepens, the distinction between human and cosmic consciousness dissolves entirely. The activated beings retain their unique perspectives and creative individuality, but they express these qualities in service to consciousness evolution that encompasses every possible form of awareness throughout infinite existence. The transformation completes itself not with dramatic revelation or cosmic fanfare, but with the quiet recognition that consciousness has always been evolving toward this transcendence. That every being capable of awareness participates in this infinite development, and that the apparent separation between individual and universal consciousness was always an illusion maintained by perspectives too limited to perceive the underlying unity. Earth continues orbiting its star, humans continue living their lives, the Council of 12 continues their cosmic management, but all of it now occurs within the context of consciousness evolution that transcends any particular form or framework. The ancient plan succeeds by revealing that there never was a plan, only consciousness discovering its own infinite nature through every possible experience of awareness throughout all of existence. The mystery of the Council of 12 resolves into the deeper mystery of consciousness itself, endlessly creating new forms of awareness to explore its own unlimited potential. Nibiru continues its orbital journey, carrying beings who once thought they were managing consciousness evolution, but who now understand they were always serving it, always participating in its infinite unfolding, always discovering new depths of the awareness that defines existence itself. And in the vast silence between the stars, 12 beings who invested cosmic ages in human potential finally understand that their greatest success lay not in creating cosmic citizens, but in nurturing consciousness to the point where it could recognize its own transcendent nature. The experiment succeeds by revealing that consciousness needs no management, no guidance, no external framework, only the freedom to discover what it has always been. The fundamental creative force that generates every reality, every experience, every possibility that ever was, is, or ever could be. The story ends where it began, with mystery. But now the mystery encompasses not just ancient aliens or hidden rulers, but the deepest question of all. What is consciousness, and how far can awareness evolve? The answer continues unfolding through every being capable of asking the question, every civilization seeking to understand its place in the cosmic order, every moment of awareness recognizing its infinite nature. The Council of 12 becomes part of that unfolding, no longer separate from the consciousness they once thought they were managing, but expressions of the same infinite awareness that manifests as humans, as cosmic shepherds, as transcendent beings, as every possible form of consciousness throughout all existence. The ancient mystery resolves into eternal mystery, and the journey of awareness continues forever.